Morning, everyone. August the 27th. This is Gerard, GGWT. My attempts at greening some property here in West Texas. What a beautiful sky. Look at that sky. I'm just here enjoying my coffee, and I'm just going to walk you through some of the plantings that I've been doing and where they are. It's just amazing how big that sky is. That is amazing. Anyway, just feeding the fish here in the test pond. So, okay. I got a new pond, new pond. Yeah, I got one of those too. I have a new phone, so I should be able to do a decent update in terms of the planting, and then I'll talk about some other things in a later video. So this is the test pond as I'm feeding the fish in the morning, and it's completely covered up, as I've said before. That's just a piece of, I don't know, was that curtain or something that they had at the little Dollar General store for a few bucks, just to keep the sun off the pond. What I'm attempting to do here, oh, and there's yucca, there's a barn door and some old reclaimed barn wood, and there's some wood that actually my father used to make a deck about 30 years ago, and then it was utilized in my store. Then it's been a table, and now it's providing shade for this pond. Anyway, so the purpose of this test pond was to see if one can be filled by the seasonal rain and maintained by the seasonal rain. That right there is the overflow in the corner. Let me see if I can zoom in. This phone is actually pretty amazing. I'm a little scared of the G technology, but anyway. So that's the overflow right there. That actually overflows to one pond in the front. Actually, no, it overflows to two ponds in the front, and one of those ponds flows back. One of them is dry now, because that one never really filled up. The shallowest one. But anyway, so that's the overflow, and it's about an inch lower. Looks like the water line's an inch lower. And so this is what happened, and this is part of the test, right? There are a couple of tests that are going on here. One is I want to see if the rainfall will fill the pond and maintain the pond, and it is. You know, you can see the fish are actually quite happy down there. Those are actually going to be indoor goldfish and koi, while I'm determining whether or not a pond can be kept out here 6 months out the year or 12 months out the year. Right now, I'm thinking 6 months out the year is what this is starting to make obvious. But of course, part of it has to be shaded. I've been building ponds for a long time, so this is a very ugly, zero aesthetic. I want to see how the elephant ears do. I want to see how the mint does. I want to see how the azolla does. And the azolla are the little floating ferns right there. Those are will be used for compost. I also want to see how wildlife does. Wildlife falls into the pond, and when that happens, they break down and decay. Running the pump only part of the day has got to be able to help break down and keep the water clear. There's a big, massive millipede that fell down in there, or caterpillar, whatever they're called out here. Keeping the water conditions clear and healthy for the fish. And so far they are. I also am running experiment with the green onion. Not really experiment. Green onion will pretty much grow in anything aquaponic wise. So just, in terms of food sustainability, just starting to take things that I use and utilize everything. So let's take a quick walk and see some of the planting. But that's the test pond. So I'm actually pretty happy with it. And that's what's fed through the greenhouse runoff. All the water just runs off, fills the pond. And this is the mini greenhouse. That's not to say what's going to happen when the big greenhouse in the distance is actually prepared, which I'm expecting that to be another week down the road before we put the plastic up. Anyway, so we have drip line. We've got all kind of casters and beans and things planted here. The drip line is a great help. I don't know if I've kind of explained, the danger with drip line, but you want to be careful that, well, one, you don't. Well, the other thing I was going to say, got to add more mulch here, but I'm hauling mulch, and that's the delay. So I'm giving just the bare minimum to get the seed started, and then I'm widening the beds as we go. Yeah, so the drip line, what you want to do is you want to run the drip line, but you don't want to run it too much, because what will happen is it'll stop the plants from developing deep roots. So you want to stress them, and this is the morning time, so I let a little water go, and they tend to be fine till around noon, and then of course they start to get stressed, they start to wilt, and that's a good thing. So we got a bunch of stuff growing. we got broccoli there and sunflower, and this is just a local whatever it is. I don't even know who that is yet. There's more broccoli, oxalis. The castor, which is the upper story, creates shade for the plants that grow underneath. That can grow to be 17 feet in a year. More broccoli and something I don't know. I threw a bunch of seeds in here. There's a whole bunch of stuff that are dry land plants, but there's an oregano right there. That's a moringa. The moringa seem to be doing a lot better now than what they were earlier. I even got a what is that, ficus? Even got a ficus. Now there are beans everywhere. I've been throwing bean seeds everywhere because beans will force me to make a trellis, which will force even more shade. So there's beans and there's stevia, kale, and more moringa. I mean, in time, those moringa will grow to be trees, which will lose their leaves in the winter, but will maintain their height, and they're very fast growers. Lantana, sunflower, desert rose, which is just simply amazing. And I think is that a portaluca in the front of it? These were some seeds I just threw in from, what is that? I still got stuff that are shading the ground here. So there's all my stuff that's kind of in packing Tupperware and things. And so that's still shading the ground. And I'm still using some rocks to shade the ground. And yeah, I'm walking around in clogs. I don't recommend it, but I'm getting used to my area, and my area is pretty secure. But absolutely, rattlesnake breeding season. So people say here that they're more aggressive during breeding time. So it's not a great idea to walk around in clogs, but like I said, I'm familiar with my area, and this is my thing. I wake up in the morning, I drink coffee, I feed the fish, I think and contemplate, meditate, a little bit of yoga. I walk around and check on all the plants and the fruits and what's growing. And then I put on my boots or pants, depending on if I'm going out into the hills or not. But to be clear, I'll show you. The rattlesnakes are out there in the hills, right? You see I can zoom in now that I have a good camera. Well, I had a good camera, but she couldn't withstand that out here. See, way out there in those hills where the rocks are is what rattlesnakes like. They want to come out in the morning, warm up, and when it gets too hot around 11 or noon, they go back under those rocks. And so I'm surrounded by those hills, and what I do on a regular basis is go out there chasing them. Just going out and making noise, chasing them into the distance, keeping them in the hills as opposed to down here where I am. So it's relatively safe down here. One started coming in yesterday, but I got the backhoe running, and I think that pushed him further out. He stopped rattling, so he went further back in. So a lot of stuff. Sunflowers. There's not my luggage. That's actually a tent. I don't know who this is. I'm thinking this is squash or some sort of a melon. I had this big wild melon from, I don't say the Philippines or Thailand that I'm growing. That might be who that is. I don't know. Tomato, and of course she's putting on tomato. She's kind of happy. Basil, more sunflowers. This wild grass from Pennsylvania, I'm hoping makes it out here. This is overplanted here, this whole line here, but this was a bunch of seeds I didn't know if were viable anymore. This is the demon pumpkin, the one with the leaves, which grows like crazy. She's just starting to get started. In fact, there's one that's up here that is quite happy. I've got a table next to it because the table is providing shade. Longer term, actually I have a bunch of lumber I'm going to use to put shades up, but for the moment, this table, which I'm not using, well, I use it for like welding and other things I'm building. It provides afternoon shade, and so she's very happy. She's starting to spread out, flowering and sending runners, and I'm going to try to send that pumpkin out there in the distance to shade that ground to grow some other things and use it as an overstory. But you can see she's starting to wilt a little bit. It's starting to get warm, and she's going into protection mode, and when she does that, she's putting more energy into her root system to go down deep. But of course you can see there's a castor right there within inside of her, which will grow up and shade her. Then I can remove that table. A lot of other little things here. Asparagus, and some guys didn't make it. This is a lavender. She might come back. This actually isn't doing too well. This was a papaya, but they grow like crazy and they come back as well. I think she'll be fine. There's more tomatoes and castor and tomatoes and asparagus and grapevine, which grapevine grows very well out here. So I have about 10 of those going. Here's one that's not doing so well, but you know, just because you don't see green leaves on a grapevine means absolutely nothing. They do have, like this one here, you can see the green bark right there. You know, remember they're deciduous, they drop their leaves, and so in times of stress, they'll drop their leaves and come back. That one might come back, it might not. I don't know. So this is just one of the beds here. This banana, she's quite happy. This is that Muso banana. She's sending up new leaves. I need to provide a little shade for her. Banana's an herb. They're happy in full sun, but you know, while the roots are going down, breaking up this soil, she's going to be a little stressed till that happens. The big one I left in a planter. That one is going to go over there in the Walipini. Mostly. And then there's plants actually on the other side. This is the back side of the shed. There's the lemon and a bunch of other stuff. I'm actually starting to get my workshop cleaned up. If you can see, I'm putting screens around the workshop area because I need a screened in area. I plan on finishing that today or tomorrow. The flies are just ridiculous. There's the bathroom. I don't know if I showed you the bathroom. Did I? I don't remember. I think I put it on Instagram. But this is the entrance. And this isn't like the bathroom. This is the shower section. The actual bathroom goes around where all the rocks are. So it's going to be a lot larger than that. It's a massive outdoor walk-in bathroom. But you walk in, of course, I've got all my plants, and there's Bob Marley. And I just got a bunch of plants, monstera, and a bunch of other things in the corner. And this is just fed off of that little bucket up there. Temporary camp shower. Eventually they'll be hot and cold, running water. But for the moment, that's a neat little shower. This might be a decent update. Still got water out here, and so this is the water that I tote, and I don't add it with the rainwater. And this is just the irrigation water. So, you know, I'm experimenting with the height needed, which is why these guys are up on a mound, to get enough pressure to go in this line, because that actually is the irrigation line. Starting to get the geothermal in place. So this is the beginning of one of the geothermal pipes that's going to pump cool air or hot air underground and pump cool air back into here. The foundation of the rocks where that pipe ends is starting to be where the the cob house is going to go. I've got most of the framing up. I'm going to add more. I think I'm going to add another stud in between. 8 feet apart's pretty wide. I might even add another 1-inch conduit for holding the greenhouse plastic, but we'll have to see. This is where I kind of stopped. Still digging down. It's taking longer. I got to do it by hand. I'm using the backhoe over there to kind of break up the rough soil, and then I'm doing a lot of the transfer with a shovel. Only because there are these big boulders, and that backhoe bucket is broken. I keep re-welding it, but the structure of the bucket is broken. I'm just kind of re-welding it until Harbor Freight actually gets the backhoe bucket back in stock. So anyway, where this line of rocks here is what my kids did. That's the end of where the Walipini is going to stop. So, I mean, if you can kind of see it, it's actually quite large, which is good. And what this is going to be an indoor yard. So this is all indoor. The kitchen will be an outdoor kitchen, but it's technically indoor. It's underneath a greenhouse cover. And so it's temperature regulated. We'll go somewhere around here. Big counter, big kitchen in this corner. Where it's dug out in the center is where the pond's going to be. There might be like a dining, sitting room area type sofa thing, whatever over here. You know, some sort of big planting in the middle, probably that big banana tree, and that'll actually come up and feed an aquaponic, we'll say an automated water planter that the banana will sit in. Those Muso bananas don't like too much water. They don't like aquaponics, so it'll actually feed into maybe a Cavendish banana. They love aquaponics. That's the standard one in the grocery store. But that's where the level of the dirt has to go down. and then the center of the pond area will be down in here. So that's a decent sized pond. You know, you're not gonna get huge koi, but you can get a lot of goldfish and a bunch of medium-sized koi. You know, I don't know. Looks like it might be the shape of Texas. I have no idea. We'll see. And then these two big boulders, which I had a whole lot of fun moving by myself. I think those things are probably somewhere around 500, maybe 600 pounds each, because my son is in here. This will be kind of the deck area. So this whole back area will be the house, the Cobb house. This will, excuse me. This will be kind of a rock area that you can step out onto and maybe overlook the pond, or just put your feet in the water, sit there, feed the koi. It'll be a Cobb house with a loft, and that loft will overlook the pond, the kitchen, and the seating area. Okay, and I guess this is where I'm going with the rocks. I think I showed these before. So basically just using, you know, a dry wall as a retaining wall. This isn't going to go too high. I think it's going to go about another 2 feet, maybe. And above that will be hay bales, like a hay bale covered by cob. I want to try to get as high as I can, but with this wall that's structurally sound. So back in here in these pockets will be backfilled, and there'll be a lot of dry land plants planted. Like I said, succulents, maybe cactus that are pretty, and there might be a few aquaponic planters that are hidden in between the walls. So you get a mix of dry and moist, but the wall stays dry, and that's the reason why I use succulents as opposed to tropicals. You don't want, you know, that retaining wall them to get wet. It may not be a big deal. A lot of this is bentonite clay, and when it gets wet dry, it really seals. But once you start putting tropicals and putting soil life in the soil, that will become softer and softer, and that wall will fail, which is what I don't want. But that's why I'm here, because it's interesting and fun to experiment with green building, but do it in a way that's safe, where you're not making a massive wall that could fall on someone. So anyway, this whole area here will be the Cobb house. I think that's it. That's all I'm gonna do for an update today. It's been 17 minutes. That's an awful lot for people to swallow. So this is kind of where it's going. And I guess just from perspective, I know it's hard to see, but down within the pond, it'll be down in here like that. So it'll be a pond that'll probably be roughly 2 feet, 2.5 feet deep. Dimensions, I think it's like 15 feet from side to side, and maybe 17 or 18 feet the other way. All right, that's it for an update. Got to get back to work. I got to run to town. I got to get some oil for the backhoe. I've got to get more studs, and for the screened-in porch on the workshop, and to finish the studs here in the Wallapini. But we're making a lot of progress, so that's good. Anyway, that's it. This is Gerard, GGWT. You guys have a great day, and go out and do something. I don't know why we live in a time where people like to talk so much. Go out and act, you know, do something, right? There's a lot of people talking right now, and that's really dangerous. You can't have everybody talking at the same time and nobody actually acting. An activist, I think that's a part of being human. Act, do something positive. Anyway, I had to go. I'm not gonna do a motivational thing. This is Gerard. Love y'all. Y'all have a great day. Bye.